Welcome to the Dynasty Evaluation. We are here with a jam-packed show today. This week, we waited all the way till this afternoon to get this show going, and it worked out that we waited. Patience is worked out for us today because we got tons to talk about. So jump in. Let's talk about, ask any questions you want, any feelings, any more landing spots you want to talk about. We've got you covered. We'll go through all the free agents moves. So get your shoes on, get ready. It's gonna be a show. So, welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Show, the Dynasty Evaluation Show. It is now. It's gonna get some time to get used to saying that, but the Dynasty Evaluation Show with my man JT Orange. JT, you got any sleep watching all these moves going on, or what's going on?
I've actually got the kid on spring break. My sleep schedule been's crazy. I've been up to like 4 or 5 a.m. like a bunch of nights in a row because of the no spring break, no getting up for school. So I've been kind of all over the place, late night Twitter, hitting things up. So yeah, pumped, man. It feels like the NFL used to never be like this in the free agent period. It's pretty exciting. I love it.
This has been a nice free agent. It kind of goes to show that how the NFL views this running back class. I think that they're signing all these running backs because they don't trust what's coming in from the NFL draft. And there's hardly been any wide receivers signed, minus a couple we'll talk about. But I think there's such a good wide receiver class coming in that they shifted more towards running back heavy. And it's been nice. It's finally good to see some of these guys get paid. Some of the guys got screwed over, but that's what we're here to talk about. All what happened in free agency. So let's start out here with quarterback position. So what happened in the quarterback position? What's the biggest signing for today? I think that Kirk Cousins going to the Falcons, 4 years, $180 million. I mean, people were expecting him to stay in Minnesota. What were you thinking with that?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you. It seemed like Minnesota really wanted to keep him, and it seemed like he was happy there. Maybe they just weren't willing to put in the years. I little surprised that the Falcons just up in 4 years, $180 million. That is coming off the Achilles injury. I like Kirk Cousins. He puts up solid stats. He's a good leader. We've seen his playoff record, which is not good. So it's just an interesting signing. I mean, for fantasy purposes, you've got to love it if you got all the Falcons players. I mean, this offense should be much, much better with Kirk Cousins if he can make the comeback from the Achilles. You hope he can. And you figure they think the medicals are looking all right if they're going to sign with this kind of deal. But it was wild. With some of the other QBs out there, a little surprised. This seemed like the best landing spot for Justin Fields. Now that seems like an absolute disaster. People are talking about is he even tradable at this point? I know a lot of people who don't like Justin Fields, but I'm just shocked at how little movement there is right now. Maybe the Bears have never really offered him as much as everyone thought they have been out there trying to trade him, but it seems crazy that you wouldn't take a look at like, oh, we don't want to pay him with a big extension, but then we'll give $180 million to a 36-year-old QB. Kind of surprising to me, but this was the major impact. This is what everybody was waiting for. Kirk Cousins was the first big domino. Everybody wanted to know where he was going. And then from there, everybody else has got to make signings and figure out, do they have a shot at getting a rookie QB in the draft? If not, you got to go out and get somebody now.
Yes, that's what's got to be done. It is what it is. I think they made a good move, but we'll talk about Sam Darnold in a minute, but me and you are loving the Sam Darnold music over there in Minnesota land right now. So that's I can't wait to see Sam Darnold just rip the ball up and down the field, for a placeholder for a year until they actually sign a quarterback. But for him to get a chance, I absolutely love it. But Baker Mayfield resigns with Tampa Bay. I think a lot of us saw that coming. That was something that we kind of hoped, expected. He played into a contract. It was just how big the contract was going to be. 3 years, $100 million. Do you think that's fair for Baker? Do you think he took a discount? Do you think he signed for a fair price? What do you think about that?
I thought that one was good all around for the Bucs and for Baker. I think, he's had so much, upheaval in his career, moving around from team to team. I think staying in Tampa, getting a little continuity, was a good decision. I think he probably took maybe slightly less. I thought 3 years, $100 million seemed reasonable You're not signing him to a crazy long, 8-year contract or something ridiculous. I felt like the 100 mil was good. I thought he was going to be in that 30 million a year range. I thought 3 years on there was probably about right for the Bucks. Gives enough time to kind of still build around him without like being like, hey, we're stuck to this guy forever. If he starts falling apart, we just totally screwed our team, a la Denver Buccaneers or Denver Broncos, excuse me, not the Denver Buccaneers. Denver Broncos was what they did with Russell Wilson and that whole disaster that has come out of there. I knew we were going to get this, John. I am still now a couple days later. I'm still not 100% sure what I think about this move for the Steelers. This Russell Wilson signing. I mean, 1 year, 1.2 million. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. 1.2 million. I mean, guy's got vet minimum on there. He's making 38 million from the Broncos this year.
Yeah,
so he's like, he can sign for super cheap. Reminds me when Lovie Smith signed with the University of Illinois to be the coach, and they got him for like a decent price. And people were like, man, I'm kind of surprised he was that cheap. Well, he was getting paid like 15 million from the Bucks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they fired him. So he's like, I'll take a little bit of a discount because I'm already getting paid somewhere else. But this will be interesting to see what they think about Kenny Pickett. Is this really a quarterback competition? I mean, it seems like it'd be surprising to bring in Wilson if you didn't think he was going to start. And then especially when you got a young QB, maybe it's the total backup plan. Like, hey, we really want Kenny to win the job. Kenny Pickett to win the job. But if he falters, we got to have a guy that can keep us in the playoff hunt and in the race. If that's the case too, I understand that signing. I'm just hoping that Russ has been kind of a controversial figure in some locker rooms the last couple of years. I'm hoping he doesn't completely destroy the Steelers locker room. Things get crazy there. But what do you think about that signing, John? It's like, I want to really like it. I want to think it's a smart move by Omar Khan, but I also am like, is it going to backfire? But for 1.2 million, I just feel like gosh, what were you paying Mitch Trubisky last year? You might as well throw 1.2 at Russell Wilson.
I think he's a starter from day one. I don't think he's going to be backing anybody up. I honestly, there's no way. Kenny Pickett's the backup at this point in time. Mason Rudolph's probably gone, but Wilson came in there as a much more polished, seasoned veteran, and working with Mike Tomlin. Now, I know you're a big Steelers fan, so this is probably a good, a feather in your cap as far as your fandom is concerned. But I honestly, I'm not sure. What are they doing with Deontay Johnson? Is he getting shipped out, or what? Are they trading him away? Because
he's there for this year at least. Now, will they sign him to another extension, or will they try to trade him? I think that's up for debate to see if they try to go wide receiver in the draft at all. I think it could be a big year for Deontay. If say Russ starts and their offense with Arthur Smith looks a million times better than it did last year, who's to say they don't go right back, sign Russ to a big 1-year deal or 2-year deal, and then bring Deontay back if they like what the offense is showing.
Yeah.
So I could see it going. I could definitely see it going both ways. But I could see the Steelers really going like, guys, we want to see what everybody can do this year, and then we're going to go from there. And because then you can make a decision on Deontay, you can make a decision on Russ, you can make a decision on Kenny Pickett. I think there's a lot of guys you could literally run this year and say, hey, let's see what happens. If it all works out, bam, let's re-sign all these guys. Let's do it. If things hit the fan, it doesn't work out the way you thought. Hey, all right, we're moving on from everybody. It's a reset.
I think there are going to be a lot more like 2 tight end sets this year with Freiermuth in Washington, and then
I agree.
Pickens and Johnson on the field, and then it's going to be run. Russ is a mobile quarterback, even though he's a little bit older. He's still a very mobile quarterback, and he just runs the offense a lot better than I think Kenny Pickett possibly can. So I honestly think that this is a great spot. Russell Wilson is a clear-cut starter in my mind. With Najee and Jalen Warren still around, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a real good offense, and the defense is always good there. You got a good coach, so I'm 100%. I love that move. A lot of people, it was speculated that he wasn't going to go there. He didn't want to go there. They didn't want him. Blah blah blah. It just worked out. Russell Wilson just said, "Let me on this team." And there's tons of talent here. I think this might be the best spot that Russell Wilson's had to be honest with you, with stability.
Yeah, I think this actually could be a sneaky good spot for him. He actually didn't have bad stats this year. Everybody wants to go back and look at it. 28 touchdowns. I think he only had like 6 interceptions, had a pretty good high quarterback rating. And now he's going back to a play action pass team with Arthur Smith's offense of style. That's what he was really successful at in Seattle. When they ran the play action, let him throw the deep ball off play action to like Pickens, Deontay. I think that's the move. Here's the other thing. If you're a Najee guy or a Jalen Warren guy, you gotta like this move. Russ Wilson loves to dump it down to the running backs. He was one of the, I think, top 5 in the NFL in percentage passes thrown to running backs last year. So this is something. If they go 2 tight end set, which I think you're right. I think they do. I think they go a lot more with Muth. I think Washington gets in there as the lead blocker. I think Muth kind of plays that second tight end / third wide receiver for this team.
Yep.
I don't think they play a lot of wide receiver 3, and then I think you see a lot of Najee and Warren. I'm all in on Najee and Warren this year, and this, throwing the deep ball. Russ throws a great deep ball, man. If Pickens can run under it, I love it. So if they can figure it out with Arthur Smith here, I'm excited as a Steelers fan for what this offense could do. It just had so much potential the last couple of years. It just has not produced the way you want it to. So I'm interested. I'm not totally out on Kenny Pickett yet. I hope he has something left in him, but we're like, the time is running out of the hour jar. I mean, he's on that back burner. Like, he's got to show vast improvement, even if it is just in practice. He's got to do something to keep the Steelers thinking, hey, this makes sense. Or they say, hey, Russ is killing it. Let's sign him to a 1-2 year deal. Let's try to go back to the well and draft another QB in the next year or two. I could see them making that decision too, if this whole Kenny Pickett thing ends up being the disaster that it looks like it is right now.
I think when they had Mason Rudolph in there at the end of the year last year, when I think Kenny Pickett was actually healthy, I think that kind of played. They showed their cards on how much they like Kenny Pickett, and they had to move on. So Russell Wilson, in my eyes, is a starter because of that. But another guy you like went somewhere that you may not like, I'm not sure, but Gardner Minshew. That's one of your boys.
Gardner Minshew, baby. Minshew Mania. I thought he was a great signing last year for the Colts. He was solid there. Almost got him in the playoffs. They should have made the playoffs. For anybody that's watched Gardner, and I talk Gardner up just because I love him. He's a character. He's got some flaws. He turns the ball over in some bad situations, and he just doesn't throw a great deep ball. They really struggled to stretch the field in Indy last year. He signs with the Las Vegas Raiders. 2 years, $25 million. When you say the Steelers got Russ for $1 million and Gardner Minshew signing for 2 years, $25 million, you're like, okay, that's a really good deal. So, 2 years, $25 million, good for Gardner. I can't believe he got that much money. Now, do they stay pat? The question with Vegas is, did they do this in case they can't make any other move for QB and they wanted to make sure they had somebody? For me, I'm not sure what Vegas is doing, because while I like Gardner personally, I think he's a fun player. To have all that money invested in Jimmy G, drop Jimmy G, and then go sign Gardner Minshew, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. You still got Aiden O'Connell there, which I think he's a nice player. I just don't know if Aiden O'Connell is a long-term answer. Last year's rookie out of Purdue. So I'm not sure what the Raiders were doing. I had myself convinced that they're trading up to number 3 with the Pats, and they were going to take Jalen Daniels. It just felt like such a Raiders move to me. But now with the Pats making the moves, which we can talk about now, I'm not so sure the Raiders do that. I could absolutely see the Raiders now at this point going, hey, we can't move up. Let's look at other options. What if we take a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix in like the 2nd or 3rd round? I could absolutely see your boy Joe Milton going to the Raiders. I could see the Raiders spending a 3rd rounder on him and going, hey, we'll play the mix of O'Connell Minshew and see if we can get this like absolutely athletic stud to figure it out. So I could see them going. The Raiders now feel like a good landing spot for that 2nd or 3rd tier quarterback in the draft, saying, hey, we don't have to spend too much on him, but let's take a guy if we like him, if he falls to us, and let's see if it happens. Michael Penix to the Raiders, that feels like a move I could see for sure.
Yeah. Either way, I think they're setting themselves up for a bridge quarterback, for someone to start. These two guys, like, excuse me, the Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew kind of training camp, see who wins, see who gets started the team. But Joe Milton here or even Bo Nix, any of those guys to come in here, sit for a half a year, and then understand the system. I don't understand why Devontae Adams is still on this team right now if you're rebuilding. That's the only thing that kind of baffles me a little bit. I get to Zamir White. You already got him under contract. It is what it is. You couldn't – Jacobs was too expensive to sign another running back when you're kind of in a rebuild like this. But I just don't understand what Devontae Adams is still doing on this team when they have quarterbacks and an up and coming young quarterback. That excuse me. That's just something
Unless
that kind
Devontae
of
just loves Vegas. Maybe the Devontae just loves Vegas. And he's like, hey, I just don't want to move. I want to stay in Vegas. I want to play here. I could see that. I know everybody's like, hey, you want to win. You want to win. Like, guys do want to win, but there's also, quality of life where you want to live. I mean, sometimes, I'd rather live in Vegas than a lot of other places, even though I hate the heat. But the best part is everything's air conditioning in Vegas. So, but maybe he just loves it there. But yeah, you're right. That seems kind of a strange move. Again, here, these last, little bit here, we've seen a lot of backup QBs get signed. And for me, I'm thinking this is absolutely teams going out there going, hey, if everything else fails and we can't get somebody, we got at least a veteran that we can play. Because the next guy is Jacoby Brissett, another ex-Colt, a guy that I think is solid. I still think he kind of got a raw deal, and Andy never got a full chance to play. When he was healthy, the 1 year they made him the starter, he actually was really good, really solid the first half of the season before getting hurt. Him going to New England makes sense to me with the Mac Jones trade to the Jags. I can see them going, hey, this is a bridge year. Let's get Brissett. If we can get a QB, I could see them now. At this point, I had myself convinced they were trading out. Like I said earlier, I thought they were going to trade out at 3, try to get a haul, and then kind of rebuild down the line here. Seems more and more they're going to go QB here. And if they're saying, I can see them getting Jalen Daniels and then saying, hey, we got Brissett, because if Jalen's not ready to go, Brissett can play until he's ready. But also, Brissett's a smart guy, has been in the league a long time. He's a guy that can help a team, help a young guy grow. So I can absolutely see that signing. If that's what they're leaning in that direction, I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I'm just this is a place, it might sound strange, it might sound weird, but I could see like them just kind of saying, we're going to bring in Sam Howell for a year or something like that, or one of these other guys to cheap and just rebuild around, like it start a rebuild and not get their quarterback right now. I could see Sam Howell going for whatever weird reason. It just seems like a great fit for Sam Howell to come in here and just kind of rebuild the team and get ready for the next quarterback.
That's another one. I know you and me both have a ton of Sam Howell shares in Dynasty, so I'm really interested to see what ends up happening with him, with the Commanders. Do they end up going QB at number 2? Do they trade up? Do they trade out? I think there's a lot of options there with them. They've made a lot of signings here, which we'll talk about coming up. So I could see them doing all kinds of one of the new ones that just came across, right, was Marcus Mariota just signed there, correct?
Yes. So I'm not that's the only reason that there would be it's kind of a stick in the spokes for the trade game there. But yeah, it doesn't really. It is what it is. That's Mariota's kind of showed his cards as far as what he does. I don't think he's a stopgap. He's a backup quarterback at this point in time. I don't think he's ever going to lead a team to a Super Bowl. As much as I used to love Mariota, was my guy back in the day. I thought he would, when he was at Oregon, he was just, he was absolutely phenomenal. I love watching that offense, the whole team, but I don't think Mariota is the answer at all. So they're going to have to do something else.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting if they go QB, if they hold Howell just in case, or whether they end up trying to move him for something. We've seen the quarterback trade market for some of these younger guys is not great. So, I mean, if somebody's going to offer you like a 5th and a 6th for Sam Howell, wouldn't you rather just keep him? Like, if I'm the Commanders, I'd rather keep him as my backup. Now, I want to see him as a starter somewhere, and I think I legit think he has starter ability in this league. He looked pretty good at times last year. I know the interceptions and the turnovers were crazy high, but we've had a lot of players have had a lot of high turnovers and still ended up being really good players in the league. So let's talk about the next guy who's
speaking of high. Speaking of high turnovers,
your favorite guy has found a new team. I'm a little shocked by this move. Johnny, you give me your breakdown of Jameis Winston to the Cleveland Browns.
Jameis Winston, man, the guy is so talented. He's got, he loves throwing to the other team. He is the definition of YOLO ball. Like, I don't care if somebody's quadruple covered and they're downfield. I'm throwing the ball. I'm gonna try and hit a postage stamp from 40 yards away. That's just kind of the Jameis Winston. And at this point in time, I think that he's okay with being a career backup. Give me $7 million a year. I'm going to have a good time. I'm not here for a long time, but I'm here for a good time. I like being a backup quarterback. I'll hold the clipboard for $7 million a year and just have a great time. And if I need to come in, I need to come in. But I know you're not a huge fan of the starter in Cleveland, so that's okay. It is what it is. But I think Jameis he's definitely a capable backup in case something happens to Watson. He can definitely come in there and be the starter for a couple games. And Watson's not going anywhere. All that money's guaranteed. They can't get rid of him for a while. I mean, it could, but it's going to financially cripple them. So Jameis Winston needs to come in here and be a backup just in case, Watson is not fully recovered, which I think he's got plenty of time to recover. Just a shoulder injury, a rotator, whatever it was, surgery is not the end of the world for a quarterback. He's got plenty of time with great medical facilities. Winston is a backup. He's always going to be a backup. He's there for a year. I love Jameis, but what do you think about this whole situation?
I actually, I'm on record. I think Watson might be washed, but I actually like this signing because if you have issues with Watson again, if he gets banged up again, he's not playing well. I mean, I don't see a situation where he gets benched. We got way too much money involved in him. But if he gets hurt again, there was quite a few games they either barely won or should have lost last year when they had to go to the backup QBs. I mean, they lucked out that Joe Flacco came in and played out of his mind down the stretch to save their season because they would not have made the playoffs. And I'm going to talk about it because I will never stop talking about it. The absolute screw job game against the Colts where they got 2 give me calls from the refs, just absolutely gave it to them. If that doesn't happen, they miss the playoffs because the Colts beat them and the Colts get in on the tiebreaker. So, I mean, they easily could have missed the playoffs last year, even though their defense was great. I love the signing for the Browns because Jameis is the guy who can come in, and if something happens with Watson, they've got enough offensive firepower. Jameis can keep them in it. And I actually like the signing for them. I thought it was a smart move. I definitely thought it was a smart move by the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, especially because the Browns bringing in Jerry Jeudy to complement. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Elijah Moore. They're not going to use probably all 3 of them because they got Njoku as a tight end there. So I'm not. I know Jerome Ford's a pretty decent pass catching running back too. Nick Chubb probably won't be around for the first half of the year, but I mean, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy sucking up targets, and then the Cedric Tillman, the David Bell stuff. I mean, I was a big believer in both of those guys, but this team now is moving forward. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to take the job over straight up from Elijah Moore. I don't know what happened to Elijah Moore there, but either one, I mean, if it is Deshaun Watson or if something happens with Jameis, there's definitely some capable receivers. This offense is set up for success for a decent quarterback, even an average quarterback. So either one of these guys, even if you don't think Watson is the answer long term, I think he can come in here and just be serviceable quarterback and be able to lead these guys to the playoffs without much of as long as you don't mess it up. I think they'll be okay. Either one of these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a nice move.
But Tyrod Taylor signed with the Jets for 2 years. That's
another good decision. I think this is one of those. The Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. They saw it last year. Immediately went down with the injury. They expect him back this year, but they showed it. Like if they would have had a capable backup quarterback last year, they probably make the playoff. But they didn't. And Zach Wilson just kind of fell apart. Then they got insane and started starting Tim Boyle and just doing dumb stuff. So I like the Tyrod Taylor move. When he played for the Giants last year, he looked pretty good. He's been solid in his career as a backup. He's had time as a starter. I just think it's a good move. It's a veteran. It's a guy who, Rodgers obviously isn't going to be intimidated by them bringing in a young guy. No. The question is going to be here is where does Zach Wilson end up going? Obviously he needs just a fresh start. He's still young. I think there's years ahead of him. I was absolutely anti Zach Wilson coming out of college. And as soon as he got drafted by the Jets, I was like, absolutely no way. I don't want him anywhere. I just thought it was a terrible, terrible fit. But I think you get him into a smaller market. You may even get him back out west, get him into a place, odds thrown as like in Indy. Say he goes like Indy as a backup. I think there's a chance he could like refresh his career and do some things, but he's got to get somewhere where he's going to have to try to go Baker Mayfield style now. I think at this point, he's going to have to be a backup. He's going to have to try to prove to be a good team player. And then if he gets a shot, he's going to have to prove it on the field when he gets a shot, if he's ever going to get back into the realm of starting QB talk. I don't think
he's ever going to be a Baker Mayfield. I think that, he had a couple good games. He had one game against USC in college and everybody's like, oh my God, look at this guy. He's so good. I don't think that Zach Wilson was just a reach by a team that, they're trying to outsmart themselves. And I know he's going to be a career backup. He may be 2 or 3 more years in this league, and then that's it. But I'm not even sure. I'd better have Jameis Winston or the other, Tyrod Taylor, guys like that on my team instead of Zach Wilson. It's just something that he proved that he's only backup fodder. So he won't be on this team this year, whether they cut him or trade him or whatever the deal may be. He's gone.
Yeah, I think I could see him going to a team that maybe is like not a contender that can kind of not waste a spot, but it was not going to kill them because again, these teams are playoff teams. So they've got to have a backup in place that if someone goes down, they can still make the playoffs with this backup. So that's why they have to get these veterans. I think that's why these moves are happening, which I think is smart by these teams.
Sure.
I just think you're going to get Zach Wilson. If he's going to go somewhere, he's got to go somewhere where it's a younger team. He's the clear-cut backup. And if he gets a shot, he's just going to have to prove himself. But I do feel like we are inching closer and closer to a Josh Rosen situation where he just keeps ending up going team to team to team as the second or third quarterback, and then it never sees the field again.
Yeah, some other backups that we have here. Drew Lock. Me and you both love Drew Lock. Speaking of YOLO ball, Drew Lock is our guy. I wish he got a decent backup job somewhere.
I just read today, John. I'll jump in here. I just read today on one of the Indianapolis Colts writers. He gave his top 3 backups that he would like to see the Colts go and get, and he actually had Drew Lock as his number 1. And I was like, how have I not thought about that? I was like, I love that move. He's an unrestricted free agent. He had a 1-year deal last year with the Seahawks. I would love to see Drew Lock and Indy backing up Anthony Richardson. Here's why. He's got a cannon of an arm. He can throw downfield just like AR. He's mobile enough to run the RPO. He's a guy where the problem was last year when they went to Minshew from Anthony Richardson, they just had to change the offense. Minshew just can't do anything that Richardson does. Drew Lock can. He's not the same speed. He's not the same athlete. He's not the same size, but he's a guy who's got the arm. He could run the same offense. I think that would be phenomenal. Now, again, I would love to see Drew Lock get a starting chance somewhere. I just don't think that's going to happen unless someone goes down with injury and he ends up proving himself. Does he ever really get a chance to start? At this point, he's 28 years old, been in the league 4 or 5 years now. But I love that spot. If Anthony Richardson gets hurt like last year, I think Drew Lock comes in and is able to keep that team on pace and run that offense. I would love that move. Even more than I love the Minshew signing last year.
Let's go. Okay, Williams off the board. Drake May's off the board. Jaden Daniels off the board. JJ McCarthy's off the board. Then you start getting into, would you rather have Drew Lock or Bo Nix?
Oh, me personally, I'd rather have Drew Lock, but I just his arm strength, depending on Bo Nix, I like, but Bo Nix is going to have to be in a short West Coast passing system.
Right.
He just cannot. He is a more talented Gardner Minshew. He really is. He's a guy. He's a timing guy. He doesn't have a great deep ball. Everything has to be timing if he throws deep because he just doesn't have the arm strength to get it in there. I like Bo Nix in college. I thought he was really good. How he transitions to the NFL is what I'm worried about. And he's got to be in the right system. If he's in a system that they throw the ball quickly, he makes quick reads. He is that type of quarterback. That's where he's good at. He is not good. Like, getting Bo Nix to be the backup for the Colts is, you might as well just kept Minshew. I mean, they're like the same type player. Right. That's why I like Drew Lock, because Drew Lock is more of a AR style quarterback. And I think it's easier for a team when their backup quarterback is the same style or same type of player as their starter. So you don't have to go in and all of a sudden change everything. I remember when this was a good change for the Ravens, but remember when Joe Flacco went out and the Ravens came in and basically a whole new offense with Lamar Jackson? It was like, oh man, we got to do like all the stuff that Lamar's good at, not what Joe was good at. So I think, if you can get the backups that can come in and play your style and can do what you want, which is why I think like a Jameis is a really good backup fitting for Deshaun Watson. He just feels like he could fit in right there with that same type of player. That's where I think you see that now. If the Vikings say the Vikings miss out on JJ McCarthy, say he doesn't get to him at 11 and they can't make a trade to go up and get him, and they've got Darnold, could I see them going maybe like a Bo Nix
Hold
in
on,
like
hold
the
on,
second
hold on.
round?
Just say. I'm going to say yes or no. You say Drew Lock or one of these quarterbacks. Bo Nix is probably a toss up. Okay, Michael Penix. Drew Lock or Michael Penix? Just say a name.
I like Drew Lock better. I do.
All right.
But I mean, Penix
That's
is a little
fine.
injury prone. I like Penix all right. I mean, if I'm going to backup quarterback and on a team that I think can make the playoffs, I want Drew Lock. Now,
Spencer
if I'm
Rattler.
a team that's out of it, I would do it. I Drew Lock over Spencer Rattler.
Okay, then you just start going on Joe Milton.
I'm taking Drew Lock over
100%.
Milton. I think if Drew Lock isn't there, do I think Milton would be a nice backup to AR? Absolutely.
Okay, and then you start getting to Michael Pratt and a couple other guys like that. But
and I like Michael Pratt. So Michael Pratt's a guy I definitely would take a third, fourth round shot on Michael Pratt. I just think he's a guy that could grow into being a solid NFL quarterback. Is he going to come out and start as a rookie? Probably not. But I think he's better than Aiden O'Connell, and Aiden O'Connell played okay last year for the Raiders.
He sure did.
So I think it just depends on where your team's at. If I'm a team that is in the playoff hunt, I want a Drew Lock as my backup. If I'm a team that is building, I would want to take a shot on the rookies. I would want to take a rookie guy and see if he can show me something. So I definitely think it's team situation. I mean, if I'm in the playoff hunt, I don't want Michael Penix as my backup in case everything falls apart. Right. But if I'm a Raiders team, do I take Michael Penix? I think, hey man, what if he shows out? And all of a sudden he looks really good. Well, we're only paying these two other guys hardly anything. It's not a big deal for us to bring him in as our third quarterback and see what he's got.
And you might get lucky, right?
Yes,
exactly. So then you got Tyler Huntley, Josh Dobbs, who kind of, he came in and was the fan favorite for a couple games, and then kind of showed his true colors. So I'm not sure. And then Mason Rudolph. I think Mason Rudolph is a pretty solid backup somewhere too. He could be definitely a backup for somebody. I'm not sure he's a starter quality, but a couple game sample size, we already saw the Mason Rudolph is okay. I mean, what do you think about Mason Rudolph? Would be a good backup or?
The last couple games last year, he showed me something. I thought he had some talent. I actually liked when they took him in the third round at Oklahoma State. He took a couple bad hits. He had some stuff happen, and it seemed like he just lost like the confidence because he's looked really good at times. The guy's got an arm. So it's not that's the issue. So, but again, Rudolph is a guy. Rudolph would probably be my under Drew Lock. Like, if I'm going I want a backup QB that's solid, Drew Lock would be one for me. I'd probably take Rudolph number 2 because again, it's a guy with a strong arm and get the ball downfield. So I like Rudolph. Tyler Huntley, I think it has to be the right situation. So I like Tyler Huntley as a backup QB, but again, he's been a really nice backup to Lamar. I think he has other situations where he could be a nice backup. Now, he's a guy, if you bring him in, the Colts have talked about him as maybe he would be a nice backup there. But again, if he costs a decent amount of money, I think he would just go back to the Ravens. So that's going to be interesting to see where he maybe goes. But I like Tyler Huntley as a backup. But again, he's shown you can't rely on him for long periods of time if you're going to try to get in the playoffs and win. He can carry you over if somebody gets hurt, but you don't want to have to rely on him. He's a decent guy. Josh Dobbs, we saw the experience. I mean, he's nice emergency quarterback, but you don't want to have to play him unless you have to.
Right.
It's just the kind of the way it works on him. So it'll be interesting to see what some of these guys. The one guy we skipped was Ryan Tannehill. Be interesting to see where Tannehill lands. He's one of those guys I could have saw Tannehill like with the Jets. Like that would have made sense to me behind Rodgers. But obviously they already went and got Tyrod Taylor. It'll be interesting to see where some of these rookies land to see if they turn around and bring in a vet to get behind one of these guys and kind of learn from, or, some of these guys that kind of know they're at the end of their career and they're not going to be a guaranteed starter the rest of the way.
Yeah, I could see Tannehill going back to Miami or just staying where he's at right now, taking short deals like that. I'm okay with, but he's at this point in time, he's probably not a starter. He's a bridge guy also. So, but I could see him sign with a team that was not 100% sure their quarterback. Mm-hmm. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this show. What happened with these running backs? I mean, it was supposed to be running backs are dead. They don't matter anymore. They're going to have 4 running backs per team. Nobody's going to share the rock. Nothing like that. We hear all this running back fodder, and then boom, boom, boom. All these humongous deals for these running backs. A lot of them are, kind of smoke and mirrors. Some of these deals are written up like pretty bad for only like 1 or 2 year contracts. But
I know.
I mean, that's it. But I mean, still, landing spots are good. We'll start off with Saquon Barkley, but he just feels like a Philadelphia Eagle. He never really felt like a Giant. You know what I mean? Like when you saw him in the Giants, the team kind of sucked. He just feels like someone who belongs on a good team like the Eagles. He's like the one piece they were missing, just that over the top running back that could solidify an entire roster together. The swag that he brings to a football team is second to none as far as running. Maybe like a Derrick Henry guy or something like that. But what do you think about the Saquon Barkley to Philly situation?
I love the move. I got Barkley in a couple drafts this offseason where I jumped in and took over an orphan. It was a dispersal draft. And people were like, "Oh, where's Saquon going to go?" And I was like, "I'm jumping on him. I'm taking him. I think he's still got a lot of good years left. I think it's going to be amazing to see him on a good team. I mean, where he's not the only good player on the team. I think it's a great spot for him, fantasy wise, real life wise. If he can somehow sneak out a couple of those goal line touches, as opposed to Jalen Hurts getting every one of them from the one, I think he's going to be a really nice fantasy factor. I just think he's a much, much better running back than DeAndre Swift is. Sure. I really do. And so DeAndre Swift was pretty good last year for the Eagles and pretty solid in fantasy. I think this is a great landing spot all around for Barkley.
Absolutely. Jorge Edwards, the boss. Thanks for chiming in here. Wendy Early, as usual. Wendy is awesome. I see her everywhere nowadays. Thanks for chiming. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. But yeah, the Barkley was definitely one of the fan favorites. Another one who affected about 17 of my fantasy football teams was Josh Jacobs. When he went to the Packers, I'm like, oh, great. This is terrible. He's going to be him and Aaron Jones sharing the ball. And then almost instantaneously, they waited for this guy. They made him take pay cut after pay cut after pay cut to stick with the Packers. And then they waited until everybody else was signed and they cut Aaron Jones. I was like, what a move, like a shit move by the Packers. I mean, that's business is business. It is what it is. But Josh Jacobs is there. He is the true bell cow now in Green Bay. I mean, could you think of a better landing spot for a better running back that happened? Because Green Bay's offense is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a nice move. And they're super young. They've got a ton of cheap contracts. So paying Josh Jacobs isn't going to crush them. Again, Jacobs, too, is like he feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's not that old.
Right.
He's like, was he 26? So it's like it feels like he's been in the league for a century, but he's not that old. 4 years, $48 million. He got the longest, biggest deal of all the running backs with $12 million a year. So that's what I'm saying. I think the Packers, for them, solid $12 million a year. I mean, we're seeing some very okay tight ends and wide receivers get $12 million a year. So these, even though people went out and signed running backs, no one broke the bank for running back. So we did see some nice movement, though. Aaron Jones I think is going to be 30. So I could see them making the move saying, hey, we're pretty young. He's the oldest guy we got. Let's get 4 years younger with Josh Jacobs. To me, that makes complete sense for the Packers.
This is a big contract, but it's really year 1 and year 2. After that, it's pretty much all just say goodbye. Thanks for your service.
And again, $12 million is basically you franchise tagging a guy for a year at running back. It's not crazy money.
Yeah. And then talk about great landing spots. King Henry just turned immortal with this signing. I mean, talk about the perfect landing spot. We dreamed about it happening last year. It became a reality this year. Derrick Henry with the Ravens, 2 years, $16 million. I mean, that's kind of a team-friendly deal for a guy that with his caliber, especially with what the offense they have. They don't even need Derrick Henry. They did okay with a couple guys like Gus Edwards. I mean, it's Derrick Henry is just going to be a beast on this team. I mean, I don't know about 2,000 yards because Jackson runs the ball so much.
That much, but yeah. John, you're 100% right. Like, this is dream landing spot for fantasy players. As a Steelers fan, like you said, I dreading this. As soon as I saw it happen, I'm like, Derrick Henry's gonna crush us. He's gonna crush us. But it's for fantasy, it's just an absolutely phenomenal landing spot. If you got Derrick Henry, you're like, if you held on to Henry, you are super pumped you held on right now because you're like, oh, his value is so much more right now. John, I got a question for you because this to me blew my mind with just this musical chairs of running backs. Answer this question for me. Would you rather have Tony Pollard 3 years, $24 million, or Derrick Henry 2 years, $16 million?
I've never been a Pollard fan, so this is an easy toss-up question for me. I like the big running backs, the guys that get pounded down the middle. I know Derrick Henry's not much of a how do you call it? Like, he's not a big PPR hero, but he's going to get 25 carries a game. 23 of them are going to go for 14 yards, and he's going to have a 195-yard run for a touchdown that's going to score you all your fantasy points. He doesn't in Baltimore here. They don't throw the ball to running backs that much anyway, so I don't care about Tony Pollard.
And I think he'll get a couple catches. He's not bad out of the backfield, but again, I just don't understand that move. That's why I'm telling you, if I'm the Titans, I just gave up our career leader in everything so that I could sign Tony Pollard to 1 more year for $8 more million. So he basically signed for the same contract. They signed for $8 million a year, both of them. And they got Pollard for 1 more year for $8 million. Why wouldn't have you just kept Derrick Henry? What are you doing, Tennessee? I'll tell you what, for how good some of these teams are killing free agency right now, the Tennessee Titans are monumentally blowing this thing. Like they're the only team I'm looking at thinking they keep getting worse, and I don't understand the decisions they're making. Like I don't mind Tony Pollard, but when you got Tajee Spears there, and then you turn around, you get rid of Derrick Henry and sign a guy that is not as good as Derrick Henry for the same amount of money, it blows my mind.
I think they're trying to protect Will Levis. That's only they need some more dump off passes. They need someone that they didn't really have that with. I mean, Henry caught the ball. Yeah, he's an adequate receiver, but both of these guys are pretty good receivers out of the backfield, and I think they're going to do a lot more short yardage game. He can't just sit. The only completions that Will Levis had was like these long bombs to DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone. They need to slow it down a little bit. So they can't rely on Hopkins and Treylon Burks, who could never stay healthy to run this team. They got Chig, who is a versatile tight end. I like Josh Weil. I got him on a tons of dynasty teams, but Tajee Spears and Tony Pollard, I honestly think that both of those guys are just going to spell each other and come out of the backfield and catch balls, and each Pollard will probably be similarly down carries. Spears can do almost the same thing. They're like a Spider-Man gift, the same guys doing the same thing. So if that's what they're doing, is just trying to expand, see what they have in Will Levis, or just try to keep him alive. Maybe that's the only reason I can see this happening. But in reality, like, I think just coming in just with a change of scenery, or just trying to say like, this is my plan. Some offensive coordinators come in, head coaches come in, they want to change things up to like, this is my soup. This is the way I want things to taste. This is what it is. And maybe this is the Tajee Spears, Tony Pollard version of Brian Callahan's offense. So that if that's what it's going to happen, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So a couple other interesting signings coming here through. This is another one we'll throw the toss up here. No, Austin Eckler, 2 years, $11.43 million, or Gus Edwards, 2 years, $6.5 million.
I don't get the. I don't know what to. I mean,
I don't understand that. Probably, do you understand that? Like,
no, they're bringing the Chargers are bringing in Blake Corum. Probably is what's going to happen. They got Gus Edwards for an early down back. That's the way I look at things. I can't see them. Why would you do that? Is right. They just.
It's what, $2.5 million more for the next 2 years to keep Eckler over Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards
Gus Edwards is all right. He's a cheap back. Like, it was a nice signing. Like, they didn't pay a ton for him, but like, you could have just paid $2.5 million more for each of the next 2 years and kept Eckler. Like, some of these moves, I just feel like teams are making moves to make moves. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like when guys are getting bored in fantasy, they're like, I've had that guy on my roster too long, I'm going to trade him. Maybe it just doesn't make any sense. And then him going to, Eckler, they couldn't use the Commanders now. Maybe the new coordinators, the new offense, everybody will figure it out. But you couldn't use Antonio Gibson correctly, and you turn around and let him go. He signs a 3-year, $11.25 million deal compared to Eckler's 2 years, $11.43 million. They're basically the same contract for 1 more year for Gibson. So Gibson's actually cheaper, and you let him go and then sign Eckler.
I tell you what, I'm as you know, I'm the biggest Antonio Gibson fan on the planet. So I get that, but I do think Eckler is a little bit more of a polished running back. So I understand where Commanders may think this is an upgrade, and I don't blame them for it. I'm the biggest Antonio Gibson fan ever. I hate the landing spot in the Patriots because it's again the same thing. They a big fast running back that can catch the ball in the backfield. It's they already had that Ramondre Stevenson. I don't understand that move, but the Eckler, I think it's a small upgrade. And I think that
I like the upgrade. I like the upgrade. What you're saying, but
Eckler's still good. But I think Eckler was probably just a little too much noise. A little too much noise for the Chargers. Maybe they just kind of said, hey, we don't want you complaining about your contract, getting on social media, just get out of here. That kind of stuff. We'll we'll figure it out with somebody else. Maybe that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I understand. Just clean start, new coaching staff. I understand that move. The Antonio Gibson, John, I got to give you a minute here to go over this. Like, I know we were looking for him to move. You wanted him to get to another team. I like Antonio Gibson a lot too. I was hoping he would get in. I actually was thinking like Antonio Gibson to the Chargers. I was like, that would be a nice move. I would have loved that move. But man, the Patriots.
Oh, it was like really? It was like that. They just popped my entire balloon, my awesomeness balloon of life. Punch. Just got somebody came up with a stick and just hit me right in the nuts. That's kind of what it felt like. It was like a birthday party. Some kid walked up with a stick and just hit me in the nuts. Like it was the worst. I was so pissed.
Oh man, I saw that. I was like, oh no, he finally's on a new team. Oh, it's the Patriots. I was like, oh no, John. I was like, oh man, I felt for you because I was just like, because I've got a decent amount of them, but I have nowhere near as amount of until it gets as you got. So
the worst part about
I would have much rather had that swap Gibson to the Chargers instead of Gibson to the Patriots. That's
1,000%. You know how Sleeper comes up the notifications as Antonio Gibson has signed a 2-year deal with, and you can't see the rest of it. So you're like, I gotta press it now. You got me clickbait. I'm gonna click it, see what it is, and it says. Then you open it up, it's like the Patriots. It's like, no, you son of a bitch.
I know, dude. That one killed me. I couldn't believe that one.
It was absolutely terrible. But
who did I skip on here?
It was Swift. We were on Swift, DeAndre Swift.
Oh, yeah. See, I actually like this signing for the Bears. Now, the only thing about him is Khalil Herbert are pretty similar types of players. The Deontay Foreman's still out there, so he's still a free agent. He's a guy that I really like as a backup for somebody. Man, if the Colts don't go get somebody, I wouldn't mind seeing them go get Foreman to back up JT. I just think there's a lot of spots that he's just a really solid backup. So he'd be an interesting guy. What did you think? I thought 3 years, $24 million for Swift was not bad. He'd been injury prone in the past. He was pretty good with the Eagles last year. Went to college with Justin Fields at Georgia. So I actually like the move. Now he's back in the NFC North, was with the Lions. I tell you what, for the Bears, I don't think they had to spend too much to get him, and they didn't have to trade, but I mean, $24 million, 3 years, what is that? $7.5 million a year, somewhere around there, a little over that.
Yeah.
My math correctly. I'll take that all day long.
Here's the thing. I am a huge Roschon. I was a big Roschon Johnson fan coming out too. So I was like, yes, he had a concussion to start the year off last year. Deontay Foreman just kind of outplayed him. And they said maybe they're going to stick with the hot hand or saving Roschon or, for later when they need him or, they don't want to, get this guy beat up as, coming in. Khalil Herbert is the exact same as DeAndre Swift. I'm not sure Khalil Herbert's going to be on this team, to be honest with you. I think
that's what I'm thinking.
He's going to be gone. I think it's going to be Roschon and DeAndre Swift, and then they keep Travis Homer or whatever else they do there, or bring in somebody else just as a flyer. But I just think that I honestly think that Roschon might be at the end of this year. I think Roschon could be the number one back. I mean, that might sound funny or stupid or whatever, but I honestly think that Roschon is a little better than Swift as an all around player, and that's. All my friends in Chicago were all the group text we had. They were all going nuts. Why the hell would you pay that much money for Swift when you got Herbert already? Because when Montgomery left, we couldn't wait to get Khalil Herbert on this deal, get him started because Herbert was he was better than Montgomery for sure. But then Roschon came in and was like, all right, well, I like some people like Roschon, some people like Herbert, a little bit different players, but I think Roschon's just a bigger version of Herbert, but a better player around, I think. But I'm not sure what the Swift deal was. I really don't understand. It's just this is Herbert's last year, so maybe they're planning for the future. But everybody around here was kind of pissed they spent all that money because the team had so many needs and they're building up, which they did a lot. They made a lot of moves on defense and around the team. I think they're going to keep Justin Fields. To be honest with you, they don't think they have an option at this point in time. But Swift, it was kind of a lateral move to go. I don't understand why they paid that much money when they could just re-sign Khalil Herbert, who's probably. I honestly think that Khalil Herbert may be a little better than DeAndre Swift. And that may be a spicy take or a hot take, whatever. But I like Khalil Herbert a little better than DeAndre Swift.
I would go Swift over Herbert just a hair for me. I think Swift's a little bit better. But I actually think this was the Bears going, hey, remember when they got to the game and they had everyone hurt And if they had a backup running back that they could have played, they probably would have won that game. And they were on their fullback was the only guy in the backfield because everyone was hurt. I think this is a move because I think they're going to play a lot of Roshan, and I think they're thinking, hey, Herbert's good, our Swift's good, we like him. We don't want to bury either of these guys. We want to keep them healthy. I think they're both going to get a lot of touches. I really do. I think that the Bears are thinking, hey, we need 2 starters, and now we have these 2 guys. And to me, yeah, there's just signals moving on from Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like Swift and Herbert are super similar players, very similar. So I didn't hate the move. I like Herbert, so I'm not against that at all. But 3 years, $24 million to me. I mean, I'd rather have DeAndre Swift at 3 years, $24 million than Tony Pollard at 3 years,
yeah, for sure,
million.
absolutely. Talk about the next 2. Talk about the Devin Singletary and Gus Edwards for a minute.
Yeah, so Devin Singletary for me, Giants solid signing, 3 years, $16.5 million. You didn't put too much into him. A little surprising. Obviously, they're trying to go cheaper than Barkley with that move. I will be surprised if they don't do something else. They go into camp with just Singletary, but I also think Eric Gray is going to get some run, the second-year player out of Oklahoma at running back. So I think the Giants are kind of leaning there with Singletary and Gray. Gus Edwards, I definitely think Chargers are going running back in the draft. I don't think there's any way. Everybody's saying Blake Corum because of the ties to Michigan with Harbaugh. I think I could see that happening if it just falls that way, but I also think that the Chargers definitely could be going another direction at running back. They're going to go get somebody at some point to add to this mix. Gus Edwards, cheap, 2 years, $6.5 million. He's a solid backup. He's a guy, if you get in trouble, you can hand the ball to him. I don't think there's any issues there. Moving on to the Bengals, Zach Moss, last second move this morning. The Bengals were going to cut Joe Mixon. And then all of a sudden reports came out that they traded him to the Texans for a 5th rounder, the team that Devin Singletary was just on. So they signed Zach Moss to a 2-year, $8 million deal. So for a year there, I think Chase Brown's going to be in the mix with the Bengals there with Moss. Mixon now going to the Texans. Like I said, some of these teams just kind of feels like, I don't know. I haven't seen what Mixon will cost the Texans, but I can't think that it's going to be a whole lot more than the 2 years, $8 million that Moss is making. Maybe Mixon gets in that 6 or 7 range that Tony Pollard and Swift are getting, but I can't see him getting much more than that. So maybe it was just time to move on for Mixon for them.
Yeah,
John, I know you're a Zach Moss guy. He was really solid for the Colts. I was hoping they would bring him back because I really liked what he did with JT out last year, but unable to get him back in Indy. So I actually think it's a solid signing there for the Bengals. I know people are talking about is Chase Brown going to be the guy? I actually love Chase Brown. Saw him a ton in college at Illinois. The guy's got way more bursts than people give him credit for. Ran a 4.3 at 4.4 at the combine. I think Chase Brown is going to get a chance in this thing, and I think Moss is just one of those veteran guys that he's solid. You can count on. I think they're just saying, hey, we got to have 2 good guys back here, and I think that's why they brought Moss in. So they got both those guys, and they got Trayvon Williams.
Yes.
They re-signed him. So I think they're feeling pretty good about their running back crew right now.
I honestly think the future of this team is not on a team right now. I don't think Chase Brown is the future. I think they're going to draft somebody in like probably the 4th round, 5th round, and these guys might be all gone, next year. That's my feeling here because I like Chase Brown a lot too, but I just think that he's not a franchise running back. I think he's good. I think Zach Moss is good too, but again, I think Zach Moss is a really, really good backup who could play the role. He did fantastic in Indianapolis. So I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them bringing somebody else in here because I like I said, this is good for 1 year. I thought they're going to keep mixing around though, just because of the fact that I think that he knew the offense. He was they're going for a Super Bowl. Why change things up right now at the running back position when you already have a steady contributor who knows the playbook, knows the offense? Why change things up? They must really like Chase Brown a lot, but you like him more than I do, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know if it's players that just run their welcome out. They wanted too much. I mean, look at some of these other deals. I can't imagine they wouldn't look and say, "Hey, these guys are given 2 or 3 years for like 6-7 mil." Like that is not an overpay for Joe Mixon. They did get a fifth in the return when they originally were going to cut him. So I can absolutely see the Bengals going for a running back in the 5th round with that
Mixon had
Texans pick.
that one huge game where he had like 4 or 5 touchdowns and 100 some yards plus receiving yards. So I mean that was like 20% of his entire stats was that one game. Probably 40% of his stats, to be honest with you. So maybe he's a big time guy in a big time game, but the rest of the season he was really kind of he was struggling a little bit. So maybe they figured that hey, maybe it's time to move on. They saw obviously things that we don't see. So it is what it is. But so after Zach Moss, we talked about Antonio Gibson a little bit before already. So that's just a fart in church kind of situation there.
Yeah. So right now we're just looking, J.K. Dobbins, I can't see anybody giving him over league minimum. He's just, injury after injury. Feel bad for the guy. He's a guy I love coming out of Ohio State, but it just might be done for J.K. Dobbins. A.J. Dillon, does he re-sign with the Packers? To kind of be that 1B to the 1A that is Josh Jacobs, or do they go a different route at RB there? I could see them maybe going with a younger guy at running back behind him. We already talked about Foreman. He's out there. He'll be a nice veteran for somebody. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, former first-round pick for the Chiefs. He's a guy that's out there in free agency. But again, I think some of these guys are signing people because they're not sure what this rookie class has and who's going to fall where. So I think another situation where a lot of guys are going out and getting a signing guy just in case they don't get anybody they really like in the draft.
I didn't see the medicals, but I would take a chance on J.K. Dobbins if I was some team that really, wasn't really sure or wasn't really, confident in my running game or my backfield. I would take a chance on Dobbins, especially for cheap. He's got no other options right now, so you could say, hey, let's take it or leave it here. This is what we're offering. Why not? So, all right. Well, that's it for the running backs. So, the action-packed day for running backs. So, receivers not so busy, but there was a couple signings. T. Higgins, franchise tag, 1 year, $21.82 million. That's that they're trying to get a long-term deal. Doesn't sound like they're really close. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. He may hold out. This may be a holdout situation.
He made a request for a trade the other day, so I'm guessing the contract negotiations are not going the way they want. I know that the Jags just signed Gabe Davis, which puts a damper on things, but man, that would have been a nice trade spot. Yes. T. Higgins of the Jags would have been awesome. Put him, former Clemson teammate of Trevor Lawrence, would have been nice to throw those two guys back together. And I know I'm skipping out of order here, John, but I already brought up his name, so let's talk about him. What did you think about let's talk about Gabe Davis to the Jags. I've just not been a Gabe Davis guy. He's just too hit or miss for me. I'm trying to see if I want to talk myself into him on the Jags. What do you think about Gabe going to the Jags?
I don't hate it, but at the same time, I wasn't like, yes, Gabe Davis to the Jaguars. I mean, you got Zay Jones, Christian Kirk there. Devin Duvernay signed there this year also. There's not a ton. I think they still going to draft a receiver in the draft. You're going to get some kind of an upgrade here. But Gabe Davis, he's still 24 years old. He seems like he's been in the league for like 4 or 5 years. But he's still only 24 years old. Young. He is super young, and I think he's talented. I think he had, you're not going to get a better quarterback than Josh Allen throwing you the ball. I love Trevor Lawrence, but Gabe Davis. I'm not saying he's a one-trick pony. He's got some big games. He's a talented receiver. He's very capable of being I think he's a good secondary receiver, not the primary receiver on an offense. But I do like, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Gabe Davis, the interchangeable parts here. Evan Ingram is the funnel of this offense. He's that's where the balls go. It's Evan Ingram. He's the main primary target in this offense. The rest of these guys are just distractions, kind of they're all going to get their 80 targets, 90 targets, whatever, that kind of stuff. But I think Evan Ingram is a focal point of this offense. If you're going to change that to make one of these receivers, you should have gone after somebody big, or just say you're going to have to take a big swing in the first round or second round of the draft to get the receiver of the future. Because I'm not sure Christian Kirk is good. They overpaid for him. That was kind of the theme. They overpaid for him. He's done actually pretty good as far as receivers concerned. But Gabe Davis, I just think he's a piece. I'm kind of with you there. I don't hate him as much. I don't not like him as much as you not like him. But I'm not a big fan. I was expecting him to go. So I was kind of hoping you stay with Buffalo. That wasn't going to happen. We already knew that. But I don't think this is the best fit for an offense or for Gabe Davis.
Yeah, and fantasy wise, he's still a best ball guy. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't be throwing Gabe Davis in your lineup every week. You're in trouble there. So that's the problem for me there. I think he could do some things there for the Jags, but man, I was really hoping the Jags would go out and get somebody like a Brian Thomas in the draft from
Yeah.
LSU. I just think he would be an awesome fit because you got Ingram underneath, you got Kirk, who's solid, but he's not a superstar. And if you could go get a superstar wideout to add there for T-Law, I would have loved to see that. I'm hoping the Gabe Davis signing doesn't say, the Jags front office doesn't say we're out on wide receiver in the draft now. I still hope they have wide receiver on their mind in the draft.
Gabe Davis or rookie pick 301.
Oh. Man, that one's close. That one's close. There's a lot of guys I like in this draft.
Yeah, you're looking at like Jaleel McMillan or let's say Jalen Polk or Tez Walker, Ricky Pearsall.
I like a Jalen Polk there. Pearsall. That's close to me. To me, that's even. I think that's an even trade. 3-1 for Gabe Davis is an even trade.
Okay.
I picked up Gabe Davis off the waiver wire the year before last year and traded him for a second. So I was still pumped about that. That was a great move.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So then after, we jumped a little bit. Obviously, Michael Pittman, your boy, re-signed 3 years, $70 million.
Love the deal.
Love the deal. I think everybody knew that was going to happen. That's kind of like he felt like family in Indianapolis. He felt like
they were not getting rid of him. Yep, they were right. Not. They wanted him. Yep, they wanted him. They had the whole time. I think that's a really nice deal. 3 years, $70 million. I still think he's way better than people realize. He's had insanely inconsistent QB play his entire career. And he's had a different starter every year he's played. I just think he's going to fit real well. You got to keep the number one option for Anthony Richardson. If he's going to end up being the guy you want him to be, got to keep Pittman. So I thought that was an absolutely slam dunk signing.
Yeah, another feel-good story, Mike Evans of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, he let the guy finish out his career there. He's going to the Hall of Fame, 2 years. I mean, it's a little bit more than maybe they wanted to spend, or, I'm not sure he's worth $40 million for 2 years. But at the same time, man, he's going to retire probably a Buccaneer at this point in time with that money, go off in his sunset, finish your career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's got Baker back. He's got Godwin on his side. The team didn't change too much. So these are just two feel-good signings. The T. Higgins situation is ugly. It's nice to see that the teams just kept guys that are fan favorites, are team favorites. Those guys seem to like where they're at. So it worked out nice.
John, I'm scrolling the Twitter pages. We've got a couple new signings.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. So a guy we missed in running back signing, we didn't talk about him. Aaron Jones, Packers, left the Packers, we said, for Jacobs. He is now on the Minnesota Vikings. So Aaron Jones staying in the division, going north. I actually like that move to him. Vikings need a running back. I like the experience there with him in Minnesota. I like what Minnesota's doing. They don't overpay Kirk Cousins. They go get Josh Darnold. They go get Aaron Jones. This team, I mean, we'll see what they are. Sam Darnold. I think I messed that up. I actually like that Aaron Jones to the Vikings. What do you think about that move?
Sticking up their butt for giving them the business. That's
I love it. Yeah, stayed in division.
Yeah, he's obviously a very talented running back. So that's something that. He'll be a great piece for that offense. And losing Dalvin Cook a year ago just felt like the heart got ripped out of that offense. That was kind of like that obviously
it really hurt them more than they thought. I think you're right,
absolutely.
John. I think you're 100% right. Dalvin Cook, they should have definitely re-signed him. That was huge. And my heart is sinking here slightly as a Colts fan. News just in.
Dun, dun,
Drew Lock signing with the New York Giants. Dang it. Unless he starts, and what the funny thing is, he's right now Daniel Jones' backup. They were both drafted in the same draft class. A lot of people said the Giants should have taken Drew Lock instead of Daniel Jones, and they ended up taking Daniel Jones, and Drew Lock fell to the second round to the Broncos. So Drew Lock on the Giants. I hope he gets a shot there at some point. I really would have liked to see him in a couple other spots, but congratulations to Drew Lock.
Congratulations to Drew. 1 year, $5 million. So does that mean that means they're sticking with Daniel Jones this year probably because they just signed a backup for $5 million, right? They're not going anywhere else. That's what that seems like.
Who'd you say there?
The Giants, they're sticking with Daniel Jones.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, the fact that you're bringing in Drew Lock, I think their idea is like, hey, Daniel Jones is our guy. We're sticking with him. I know everybody's been talking about them trading up in the draft and getting someone. I'm not totally sold on them doing that. I can't imagine what I don't have it in front of me, but the dead cap space that they would have to eat if they got rid of Daniel Jones would be pretty significant. And I'm not sure what his trade market would look like out there. As you can see, the Bears are already like, we've got a lot of trade market for Justin Fields, and I would much rather have Justin Fields than Daniel Jones. So, so to me, that's interesting. But if they do make a move for a rookie, I like the idea of bringing Locke in, where if you had to start Locke for the year, you could do that. There's another gigantic signing. It's defense related. I'll hold off on that signing, John, until we get later in the show.
All right, good. Very good. Very good. Other receivers, Darnell Mooney with the Atlanta Falcons. I think Mooney was – I don't think he was used properly in Chicago. He's a speedster. I think he's a pretty good receiver. $39 million, $13 million a year for Darnell Mooney. I think he's a little bit of a rich contract, but at the same time, I think he's pretty good.
I actually like that landing spot. I have a ton of Mooney in fantasy, so I needed him to get it on a team where he's going to get some opportunities. I think him being the wide receiver 2 in Atlanta behind Drake London with Kirk Cousins coming in there, I think this raises Mooney's value. Now, $13 million a year. Give me Saquon Barkley for the same price. But that's what we're gonna do. I like the landing spot for me. I don't love the contract, but I do like the landing spot. I think he just looked out of sorts last year with DJ Moore. He did not look like the player he was the year before. I'm hoping this is a nice reset for him. Mac Hollins was the wide receiver 2 for Atlanta last year. Right. So for me, this is a big upgrade for Atlanta with Mooney here.
I thought Atlanta was going to go after like a Hollywood Brown or Calvin Ridley or something like that instead of Darnell Mooney. But I mean, it is what it is.
The Calvin Ridley situation. I don't think they were going back there after all that happened there. But I could have seen them maybe going like with Hollywood Brown or Gabe Davis. Question is, how much do some of those guys sign for? I mean, Gabe Davis and Mooney basically exact same contract, 3 years, $39 million. So they're pretty much in that same range. So and that's kind of what some guys brought last year. Like Juju signed for 3 years. I think it was like $33 million. So it kind of feels like that wide receiver 2/wide receiver 3-ish is kind of in that 10 to 12 million range is kind of what they're going for.
I guess. Yeah, I guess you're right. That does, it seems like a lot of money for a guy like Mooney, but I guess that's the average receiver price. So that's, Kendrick Bourne with the Patriots, 3 years, $19 million. So we're, I guess a little bit, he's making almost in 1 year or 3 years what Mooney's making in 3 years. So it's pretty close, but
he's 20 minutes left, but that's a decent signing. I don't think there was going to be a huge market for Bourne. I think he's been solid for the Pats. I think they're trying to keep somebody around, and I don't think they want to spend big. So I thought that was a decent re-signing there. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there right now. You just talked about Devin Duvernay from the Ravens going to the Jags, 2 years, 8.5. He's probably going to be more of a special teams guy with them. Yes. I assume he'll kick and punt return for them. And kind of be like their 4th or 5th wide receiver. I wouldn't expect to see him on the field a ton on offense.
No, I mean, hey man, special teams is a third of the game, man. So you don't, it's not.
I love him as a special teams player.
Absolutely, yeah. To have a quality special teamer to return punts and kickoffs for your team, maybe not a big contributor on the offense itself, but to have that kind of look at guys like Devin Hester and things like that. Never played. Look at the difference they made on teams, and he was special, but still having a good return man. Nowadays, it's more of a punt return than a kick returner because all the punts go in the end zone. But having a good punt returner on your team is priceless. So some other guys that we touched on earlier, but who are still yet to sign. Hollywood Brown, it doesn't have I like Hollywood Brown. I'm not sure where he's going to land. Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville. If they keep him, they got to pay a 2nd round pick, right? So they're not going to keep him, right?
Who are you talking about?
Calvin Ridley.
Really? Yeah, Ridley's going to go somewhere else. Somebody's going to overpay for Ridley. Yeah. I just think someone's going to do it. It's going to end up being a team that misses out on like a couple targets, and then they're like, "Oh man, we got to do something," and they're going to overpay for Ridley, and then somebody's going to end up paying him like 14 or 15 million. It's going to be kind of ridiculous. I like Ridley, all right, but he was super inconsistent last year. he had some really good games, and man, he had some games he just drove you insane.
Is that really an overpay when you're paying Darnell Mooney $13 million a year?
Again, that's, I guess, relatively, is it?
I guess
Probably
not. I mean, it's the
not.
going price.
But I mean, yeah, I guess not.
But OBJ is a guy that's out there. I mean, he's always hurt, but man, when he's on the field, he's so talented. I can't stand having him on my team because he's never around. You know, best ability is availability, and he's just never available. But when he's on the field, I mean, he is still good for an older guy. He just, if that guy was healthy, he's maddening to have him because he's hurt all the time. But when he's on the field, he would on the Rams in that Super Bowl game, he was electric. Everything he got, he would have probably. I mean, he kept them in the game because of his skills. Another guy like Tyler Boyd's going to land somewhere and be a big producer for a team. Curtis Samuel is someone who I could see. I could vision him on a lot of teams in the NFL with his ability. So, what about those three guys?
Yeah, another guy talking about going kind of with Odell Beckham was Michael Thomas getting cut finally by the Saints. Yeah. He had to go. He's another just can't stay healthy at all. I mean, there's just nothing you can do with him. I like Tyler Boyd. He's an interesting guy. He's just been really solid. He's kind of been the number 3 for the Bengals forever. He's been there his whole career. He feels like the guy that would be a difference maker on a contender.
Sure.
Like put him on. Here's a team I would love. I think he would be nice on. The Los Angeles Rams. You got Kupp. You got Puka. They signed Demarcus Robinson to a 1-year deal. Tyler Boyd is a much better player than Demarcus Robinson. I would love to see like a Tyler Boyd go there. Tyler Boyd would be an interesting one for the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yeah.
He feels 100%. Like he could play that Juju role that Juju played 2 years ago that he had a pretty solid year. Tyler Boyd just feels like he would be a really nice fit where he's that guy where Mahomes would love him. Just a veteran guy that can make plays. He seems like if he went there, he would be a really good spot for him.
The Saints, he could be the Michael Thomas replacement. Stuff like that.
The Saints need wide receiver help, so that he definitely would be solid there. I like him. Noah Brown's on this list. He re-signed with the Texans. A lot of these other guys I'm kind of out on. Quez Watkins, Matt Collins, they're fringe guys. Brian Pringle. I'm totally done with Chase Claypool. I don't want him anywhere. No. I thought Paris Campbell would be a lot better last year for the Giants. I just can't believe that he was just nothing. Didn't see the field, got no playing time. I wouldn't mind seeing him go back to the Colts for a super cheap deal.
I want to see Donovan Peoples-Jones go somewhere and actually have a chance.
Yeah, it would be nice. There's got to be some. I'm trying to think. There's got to be some teams that he might kind of really fit in there. It just seems like everywhere he goes, it's just not a great fit, or he's behind too many guys. He doesn't get enough of an opportunity. He would be a nice. He would be a nice addition to a team, especially Buffalo. If they're 2 or 3 deep. Buffalo could be nice. He could be a nice replacement for Gabe Davis.
Yes,
I kind of like that move. I like where your head's at on that one.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of stuff right, but every once in a while I hit the bullseye with my blindfold on. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, such a great college player to come out and just not be able to fit anywhere is kind of rough. But all right, that's at the end of the wide receivers. There'll be more popping up here. There's a lot of free agents, but I think the NFL, like you said, the NFL kind of spoke to us and said, "Hey, there's so many good wide receivers coming out of the draft right now. Let's get some cheap deals here with some possible. Let's re-roll and get some cheap deals with possibly people who are equally as talented or more talented than the free agents out there." So it's gonna be tough. A lot of these guys are gonna be practice squad guys, or just that's it for the NFL careers. But tight end, there's not that many tight ends coming out this year. I think there's 3 or 4. We know Theo Johnson's gonna be number 1 tight end. Of course, in my mind, but that it is what it is. But there's Dalton Schultz re-signed with the Texans, 3 years, $36 million. Brevin Jordan Love went right down the drain on this one, but Dalton Schultz he just fits with the Titans. They like him there. It is what it is. So what do you think about Dalton Schultz in Houston?
I think it was a good move. He was a nice safety blanket for CJ Stroud. He's just a good player. I I thought it was the right move to kind of keep that group together. And we've seen the Texans. If anybody's winning right now in free agency, I think the Texans have got to be right near the top.
Sure.
But again, when you know you have your franchise QB and you feel great about him, like CJ Stroud having one of the best rookie seasons ever, it makes it a lot easier to go out and sign guys when you're like, oh, we know where we're at and what directions we're heading in. We've got this stud QB. Now we just got to put guys around him. It's amazing how teams approach free agency when they know who their QB is and they know what direction their franchise is going. And these other teams are just like, feel like they're just like throwing paper up in the sky, like, which one hits the ground first? Let's sign that guy. Some of these teams feel like they know what they're doing and the other ones just don't. But I thought the Dalton Schultz, again, you're looking at about $12 million a year, which is kind of amazing what some of these running backs signed for. But he's a solid guy, and I think he fits that Texas team. I think it's a smart move.
Security blanket for the quarterback. I mean, that's just exactly what he is. He just works well there. Some people just fit with teams. It's like, why wouldn't Dalton Schultz come back? And they wanted him back, and he likes being there. And that's just, it's one of those good feeling, great fit places. Hunter Henry I don't know what the Patriots. Why do they love Hunter Henry so much?
I like Hunter Henry, and I'm not 100% sure it's been Hunter Henry's the issue, is the being QB play. I know 2 years ago he was really banged up and they were not very honest about it. He basically after season said he had surgery and was hurt the whole year, and they didn't tell anybody. He was better. I mean, he came out on fire last year for fantasy. He got off to a great start, but then as the Patriots offense tanked, obviously he tanked too. I was kind of hoping he would go somewhere else, depending on their QB situation, depending on who they get. I mean, Jacoby Brissett ends up starting there. If that ends up happening, I can see a lot of Hunter Henry. Him just boom to Hunter Henry. So I don't think he's completely dead. Decent re-signing there. Noah Fant, we talked about briefly.
Talk about Noah Fant, please.
2 years, $21 million on him. I was excited to see him go somewhere else because I just think he's been so underutilized in Seattle. They played 3-4 tight ends at a time. It just never seemed like he was the guy. Now it seems like they cleared out everyone else that was on the roster and they re-signed him. So new coordinator. Maybe that changes things up for him. Getsy, the former Bears offense coordinator, who really got Cole Kmet involved here in the last 2 years. So maybe they kind of make that move and Fant becomes more relevant. I would love to see it because I got a lot of Fant in fantasy where I waited on high-end tight ends and I kind of went middle of the pack and I took Fant, and he hasn't done a lot for me. I'm hoping they kind of mix him into that offense better. I really wanted to see him somewhere else just to mix it up, but I don't totally hate it if they finally start utilizing him in Seattle.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. There's Metcalf, Lockett, and Jigbar are the offense here. He's probably the fourth part of this, the fourth player at the dance. But I like Noah Fant. I like his ability. I like his athleticism. I like everything about Noah Fant is what I want, especially in the fantasy. I think he could be definitely a good fantasy contributor. Again, I didn't like him staying in Seattle, just like you said too. But at the same time, everybody needs a tight end. He's going to play all the time. He's going to get all the stats. What I got, Tyler Marby or something like that behind him. So it's not. He's the guy. It is what it is, and I think hopefully he has his breakout this year. We're all waiting for it. Colby Parkinson with the Rams, 3 years, 22.5. I bet you nailed that, right? You called that a long time ago. You knew that was going to happen.
That was a surprise, John. I mean, he was technically Seattle's third tight end most of the last 2 or 3 years. So for the fact that he actually gets $22.5 million, it's making some of these running back contracts look just like steals. I think he's all right. He was okay for Seattle. I don't dislike him. He has not been fantasy relevant whatsoever, pretty much ever. Kind of surprised about that deal. Obviously, Rams telling you they've got to do something with the injury. Why am I blanking? I got hurt in the playoffs. Tyler Higbee. Sorry about that, everyone. My mind went blank there. Tyler Higbee with a knee injury, pretty bad knee injury. It seems like he might miss almost the whole season. So obviously they're going out and trying to get some reserves just in case that happens.
They got Noah Forrestall, man.
I'll just leave it at that. Okay, John.
Yes. So I don't. I don't. That did definitely surprise me, but I see the Bengals cutting T. Higgins and bringing in Mike Gesicki. What do you think about that? That's a replacement, 1-for-1 replacement on the Bengals.
I don't know if it's a 1-for-1 with T. Higgins, but I do like Mike Gesicki on the Bengals,
I do too.
especially if Tyler Boyd being gone, and if something happens with Higgins, they're going to need somebody over the middle making plays where basically Tyler Boyd's lived the last couple of years, the short intermediate routes. I think Gesicki can be that guy. Gesicki's got ability. He's got talent. We've seen it. The guy just can't block. He's not a in line blocker. He just can't block. He's basically
block.
a big slot. So if you use him as a big slot, I think he could be good. So I'm excited for him on the Bengals. They've been really looking for someone to take over that tight end role for a few years now. They haven't had anyone just really succeed in it. I'm hoping with Tyler Boyd moving out that they decide, hey, we're not going to really sign another slot receiver. Gesicki just becomes our slot receiver, and they keep one of the other tight ends as kind of their blocking tight end. So am I buying super high on Mike Gesicki here? Probably not, but I'm not cutting him now.
No.
Now I'm gonna hold him and hope that he does something here on the Bengals. At least he's on a good offense. And sometimes for fantasy, that's all you can ask for. Just hope your guy ends up on a good offense and something happens.
I mean, people were real close. Gesicki got passed around a lot of leagues. People were just done with him, saying that's it. His career's over with. When you get someone with his athleticism and his talent and his ability as a receiver, you can't cut him. He's gonna land in the right place sometimes, and hopefully this is it. But you can't cut guys like Mike Gesicki on your dynasty teams. They got to sit like spot 30, spot 32, whatever. Just keep them there. Good things will happen to talented receivers. Yes, he can't block, blah, blah, blah. He'll be on the field, but he'll be on the field in passing situations. I don't give a shit if the running back. I don't get fantasy points for guys blocking. So if he's not on the field for first down and second down, he's on the field for third down. When there's 4 receiver sets, he'll be out there, that kind of stuff. So I'm good with that, man. I got him on a lot of teams because everybody gave up on him. And I liked him with the Dolphins too. So it is what it is. Charlie Warner with the Falcons, 3 years, $12 million. He's just a backup, that kind of deal. So I don't think he's going to cut into your boys Kyle Pitts' production at all. He just, but he was like, joking around with Twitter, the same tongue-in-cheek stuff. Oh, here we go again. Another guy taking spots away from Kyle Pitts. It's not going to happen. It's just, backup. So. Let's see. Irv Smith Jr. with the Chiefs, 1 year. That's interesting. I'll say it's interesting. It's a nice upgrade over who's their backup there, like Poe or what the hell's his name? But he's a good backup. I'll put it that it's an upgrade at the behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah, it's a decent sign. I mean, I think everyone who thought we were going to see an Irv Smith breakout thought it would have been last year with the Bengals. And when that didn't happen, I think people have realized like he's a career backup at this point. That guy, I just don't think he's ever going to see starts. Might as well go sit behind Travis Kelce. No big deal there. Logan Thomas still out there. Commander's cut. I tell you what, I like that for Cole Turner. If your guys was on Cole Turner the last couple of years, I like him, the former Nevada Wolfpack tight end. I like Cole Turner for the Commanders. I'm hoping that this means that they're clearing out room for him there in Washington.
I'm pretty sure that the Cole Turner experiment might be over because Zach Ertz came there to take that job. So
I don't know about that. Ertz is okay, but I think Ertz is going to help him learn. But I think Cole Turner is going to eventually be the guy.
I agree. Yeah. Cole Turner is
he was Ertz's signing there is okay, but yeah, I don't know how much I think Ertz has a huge upside going forward. I mean, he's probably playable as a backup if you have to have him in a league or if you're in a start 2 tight end league or something, but I'm not going out and trying to acquire Ertz at this point.
What do you think about Jonnu to the Dolphins? Because the Dolphins haven't really used the tight end, but maybe they didn't have a tight end at Jonnu Smith's receiving ability. They didn't really use Gesicki, but he wasn't really part of the offense. Is Jonnu Smith going to be here just that's their slot receiver now? Kind of like
he's going to have a shot. I think he's going to have a shot to be relevant. I mean, Durham Smythe's been their starter basically the last year or two, and he's not a pass catching threat almost at all. I mean, they've basically kept him over Gesicki because he's a good blocker.
Right.
So if Smith can prove that he can block at the same ability as Smythe, he's a much better receiver than Smythe is. He gives you much more upside in the receiving game. So he's definitely a guy I'm going to keep my eye on because there's a chance that he gets some quality PT there for the Dolphins.
Sure, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And then other Gerald Everett, Adam Troutman is a guy that, every year it's like, yes, this is it, Adam Troutman year. This is it, Adam Troutman year, and just nothing. Him, Austin Hooper, another guy. Is I think that's probably that game's over with, but. That's it for the tight ends. I can't think of anybody else that we didn't mention yet, but a lot of good. There's not too many tight ends coming out of draft this year, so I think there's 3 or 4 decent ones, but after that, it's nothing. So that these had to get their guys right now while free agency started, or else they were going to be kind of screwed at tight end. So other than the fantasy relevant players, just a couple offensive linemen got taken. You want to take some of these guys?
Nothing crazy on the offensive tackle side. New England signed Chukwuma Okafor, the old Steelers tackle, to a 1-year, $4 million deal. Shows you how much the market was out there on him. Not much. The Patriots did sign Onwenu. 3 years, $57 million. Obviously liked him a little bit better. I think you're going to see some of these guys sign. I think you're definitely going to wait and see what some people want to do in the draft before they go spend money on some of these free agents if they're not top of the line guys. A few guys signed as far as centers and some guards that I think will maybe adjust what some teams do in the draft because they fill some positions there.
Yeah, I wish that the Bears would have signed a center. They really need a center. I just kind of wish that they would have gone after Brewer or something like that. But it is what it is. Big signing guard. A couple guards got some big money this year. Robin Hunt, 5 years, $100 million.
Yep.
That was a huge signing. Another Kevin Dotson, 3 years, $48 million. Ezra Cleveland, the Jaguars. That was when. It's 3 years, 28. But Damian Lewis, the Panthers, 4 years, 53. So Panthers made some moves. They're building around Bryce Young, and those are the things you got to do. Josh Simpson to the Jets.
They signed those 2 guys, but then got rid of Brian Burns. Defensive end. I think it's a dumpster fire right now in Carolina. I'm not sure what they're doing. It seems like a mess. The Rams, though, I tell you what, with the resurgence last year of Stafford and the defense being better than people thought, and then making the playoffs and being in that game with the Lions, a game they could have won, it definitely feels like the Rams are ready to make a run at it again here. They re-signed Kevin Dotson. They also signed Jonah Jackson to a 3-year, $51 million deal. So kind of get those guards in line. They're in play for some big defensive players. Guys are out there. Like I said, I think Tyler Boyd might be a nice spot for Tyler Boyd to go with Kupp and Puka. So, and I don't think they're out on the running backs. I know Kyron Williams had a nice little run last year and people like him. I think they'll go back to the well in the draft and draft another running back. I think it's like 7 out of the last 8 years they've drafted a running back. So I think they're going to keep that run going. I think they'll go. I don't think they'll take anybody early, but I can see them going 4th, 5th round, grabbing a running back and trying somebody out. I'm a big Frank Gore Jr. guy. I would love to see him in a spot like the Rams, kind of backing up Kyron Williams. That might be a nice little landing spot for him as well.
I'm getting my 4th round picks in the draft, late 3rd, early 4th, mid 4th, whatever I can get. Frank Gore Jr. and Joe Milton are on my radar for those late round picks. I just feel like those are guys I'd like to have stashed on my team, for versus anybody else in that back of the draft. I really don't like, everybody's got their guys. I know we talked about before about Frank Gore Jr. being someone that we're really interested in. So I don't think he's going to be a mega producer anywhere, but I was at my neighbor Joe's house last night watching all the bunch of rookie film and guys coming in. I mean, Frank Gore Jr., a little bit of smaller school, but I mean, the guy he was absolutely fantastic. So Isaiah Wynn is a guy, he's one of the smallest offensive linemen you see. He's like a 6'3" guy or 6'4" or something like that. But he's a little tank, I love that dude. He's not signed anywhere yet. But let's do it real fast. Bring us home with some good defensive signings, some defensive line. Go just touch on the guys on defense that you IDP guys drool about.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of re-signings that have been big. Chris Jones re-signing with the Chiefs for a monster 5-year, $158.5 $5.75 million deal. Ton of that guaranteed up front. He was a big one. One of the guys going to a new spot that was big, Christian Wilkins, leaving the Dolphins and going to the Raiders, 4 years, $110 million. Anybody that plays an IDP league where you start D lineman, Wilkins is an absolute beast. He's one of those few interior D linemen that gets tackles as well as sacks. So that was a big one. Leonard Williams re-signed with the Seahawks. IDP, Grover Stewart, not a big deal IDP wise, but Colts, huge deal for him re-signing with them. 3 years, $39 million. He's a run stuffer. They just are a totally different team when he's on the interior there. Javon Kinlaw, a guy that was a first-round pick by the Niners. He's going to the Jets. 1 year deal right now is kind of being floated. Some other big ones. Edge rushers, Josh Allen, franchise tag by the Jags. Brian Burns, the huge one, got franchise tagged by the Panthers and then turned around and traded him to the Giants for a 2nd and 5th. This was the colossal collapse everyone's talking about. Is last year the Rams offered 2 firsts and I think a 2nd or 2 firsts and a 3rd for him. And now they give him up for a 2nd and a 5th 1 year later. So that's a one. Danielle Hunter, Minnesota Vikings. He's going to be a big one. He got injured a couple years ago, but he has come back strong. Monster year this last year for the Vikings. He's going to end up getting some nice money from someone. Chase Young is still out there. Again, I don't think he's going back to the Niners with a couple of the signings they've made. The Eagles keep adding edge rushers. 3 years, $51 million for Bryce Huff. I like that move. Jonathan Grenard going to the Vikings, kind of replace Hunter. 4 years, $76 million for him. So that was a nice signing. The Niners got Leonard Floyd. That's why I don't think Chase Young will be back with that move there. Danico Autry, I think a sneaky signing by the Texans, former Colt and former Titans player, going to the Texans, 2 years, $20 million. I like him a lot as an interior big defensive lineman. Bills re-signed AJ Espinza, 2 years, $12 million for him. That's a nice deal. Marcus Davenport to the Lions, 1 year, $6.5 million, playing opposite side of Hutchinson. So that's a nice little signing for them. I like that one. Linebackers, huge move just coming off the presses. The Pittsburgh Steelers making the signing that I was begging for here in the offseason. I didn't think it was going to happen because I didn't know they'd have enough money. 3 years, $41 million deal. They get Patrick Queen from the Ravens, steal one from their rival. Huge play. Inside linebacker was a mess last year. It's been a mess for a couple years for the Steelers. The guys last year played pretty well, but injuries just murdered them. Love Patrick Queen. He had a monster year next to Roquan Smith. I think he's a huge piece to add to the Steelers. I think that's going to be a monster signing for them. So huge deal there out of Pittsburgh. Franco Lavu leaving Carolina, going to Washington, 3 years, $31 million. He's an IDP dream, makes tackles, gets sacks. If he gets used correctly in Washington, look out. He could be great. Jordan Brooks, big signing, Seattle, got that knee injury, came back sooner than people thought. Actually was better last year than people gave him credit for. He ends up signing with the Dolphins, 3 years, $26 million. I really like that landing spot there. And one of the sneaky best signings I like, Azeez Al-Shaair, was on the Tennessee Titans, signed with the Houston Texans, 3 years, $34 million. Guy was crazy good last year. I think he's highly underrated in the IDP world, but also in just the real NFL. I think people just do not realize how good this guy is. I love that move for the Texans. I think he is going to be really, really good going there. Blake Cashman left the Texans. He's now a Viking, 3 years, $22 million. And another interesting signing with Al-Shaair gone. The Tennessee Titans went and signed former Chargers linebacker Kenneth Murray to a 2 year, $15.5 million deal. Interesting one there. Drew Tranquill. Yeah, Drew Tranquill back with the Chiefs. Willie Gay is gone. So I think that's an interesting move there. And then last two, Jordan Hicks leaving the Vikings. He's now Cleveland Browns, 2 years, $8 million. He takes the place of Anthony Walker, who left the Browns to go to the Dolphins, 1-year deal for him. He's still trying to fight back for some injuries a couple years ago. Guys out there, Shaq Leonard, where will he end up? Isaiah Simmons, he's one of those guys people should be kind of looking at. Cody Barton, definitely interesting. Jerome Baker is a guy I like. He could end up in a couple spots, the ex-Miami Dolphin, and Bobby Wagner, Levante David, old veterans. Be interested if they go back to their teams or sign somewhere new. Defensive back front, really the big guy is Jalen Johnson. Went back to the Bears. Huge signing there. Great move. L'Jarius Sneed, franchise tagged by the Chiefs. Question is he going to get signed or tagged? Kenny Moore for the Colts. Is he going to go back their way? He, one of the best nickelbacks in the entire NFL. And if you play IDP where you have a cornerback, you got to start a cornerback. Nickelback is the guy you want. So he's a great play there. Few other guys out there as far as cornerbacks are concerned. Really, the big names are at safety this year.
Yeah.
The safety there is just all kinds of veteran talent out there. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these guys go. Antoine Winfield Jr. was my favorite guy. He got franchise tagged by the Bucks, 1 year, $17 million. I think he'll get a long deal done. Kyle Duggar for the Patriots. He got franchise tagged on a deal. So he's back there for now. Big signing, Xavier McKinney leaving the Giants and going to the Green Bay Packers, 4 years, $68 million. He has gotten better and better over the years. And I think actually this Packers defense is much better than the Giants defense. He could end up being really good in Green Bay. I like that move. Geno Stone leaves the Ravens, goes to the Bengals on a 2 year, $15 million deal. He was one of the top interception guys in the NFL last year. The Bengals have a pretty decent safety core, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Geno Stone goes in there. Julian Blackmon, Colts, he's out there. Love to see him go back to the Colts. If not, he's a player who's been banged up a lot of his career, so that's kind of the knock on him. But when he's played, he's been really good. CJ Gardner-Johnson, ex-Eagle, ex-Lion. He's had some injuries, but he's a really good player. Interesting to see where he might end up going. Still out there, Jeremy Chin, Carolina Panthers is a guy a lot of people have their eye on. Micah Hyde for the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Poyer from the Buffalo Bills. They were just way over the cap. They had to get rid of these guys, even though they're studs and they're veterans. They just didn't have the money to keep them. So really interesting to see where those guys go. I can see those guys going to teams that are contenders that really need that experience in the secondary.
So a lot of people from Chicago, as they see Eddie Jackson out there, and they're like, "Man, we overpaid him already. We couldn't wait to get him out of here. What's going to happen with him now?"
Very going to be interesting to see where Eddie Jackson ends up landing. I think he's going to get less than he did when he was with the Bears. I think they did overpay him a little bit. It'll be interesting to kind of see where his landing spot to replace Eddie Jackson. They actually went out and got Kevin Byrd, 2 years, $15 million for him, ex-Titans player who was just absolutely one of the best players for the Titans for years in the secondary. But he went to the Eagles last year in a trade, now over to the Bears. We've got jumping up here news, Chase Young at Titans at the moment. So I haven't got a confirmation if that's a done deal yet or not, but that would be an interesting move there, seeing Chase Young go to the Titans, a team that looking O-line and D-line in the draft with a top 10 pick. So, John, that would be definitely be an interesting one.
Thanks, Peter Petrovic, for letting us informed. Can't see these things as they jump on as we're on the show right now, but I appreciate you guys chiming in with Peter Petrovic. I appreciate you jumping in and keeping us informed while this thing's going. So much appreciated. But that's about it, man. That's the show for today. That's
John, last second one here. I'll jump in. Bears news. Gerald Everett signing with the Bears from the Chargers just came across the wire here not too long ago. So that's an interesting one. Does that move Brock Bowers up as a potential option for the Chargers at tight end at number 5? Again, a guy I would love to see on the Colts, but man, fantasy purposes, Brock Bowers on the Chargers would be pretty sweet if that happened.
Yeah, I think the Bears. I think the Bears like Cole Kmet. I'm not really sure they want to move off of him yet. You know, obviously getting Bowers was probably an upgrade over Kmet, but at the same time, I think.
Well, I don't think the Bears are going to get him. I think he goes to the Chargers and somebody else. I think they like Cole Kmet. Like you're saying, I think Gerald Everett's a nice addition here. I think as a secondary tight end or backup to Kmet, because I think he kind of does what Kmet does. but he's a little bit older. So I think that's a nice fill in for the Bears right there.
Yes, agreed. Well, that's all the players. That's free agency so far. We kind of hit it up in a nutshell. There'll be more stuff coming in, but we'll be on tomorrow on Fantrax to talk about. We'll go team by team, kind of like we did today, but a little bit. We'll go team by team instead of just the free agents. Talk about some trades that happened in my McGlynn Dynasty leagues on the Commissioner Evaluation Show on Fantrax. But today, Fantasy and Frames. Thanks for having us. This is a great family to be in. I love the show. Love doing them here. Jorge's an awesome guy that makes us feel like family here. This is a great show. JT, thanks for being on. And we'll, as the day goes on, we'll keep tweeting. We'll keep sending stuff out. We'll keep talking about the free agency. But thanks for all 295 people that are tuning in live right now. Much appreciated. And we will see you later. John McGlynn 75 on my John McGlynn's YouTube channel, Dynasty Evaluation. That's where you can find it at. John McGlynn 75 on X. JT, where can everybody find you at?
You can find me at JT Orange on the X, Twitter, and you can look up my show, The Stew with JT Brew. The Stew with JT Brew. Thanks for having me on, John. Exciting times here in NFL football free agency. I love it. Let's keep it rolling today.
Absolutely. 300 people watching us live right now. This is fantastic. Thanks a lot. Much appreciated, everyone. We will talk to you later. We'll see you tomorrow.